amazing. It just finally happened. You know, I've been around them. I haven't got any big ones.
It's Lake Fork Bassmaster Elite Series week, and we're all wondering which Lee Livesay is going to show up. The Lee Livesay that dominates the field and is the absolute guaranteed easy pick in fancy fishing, or one you should be careful of because it could sink your fantasy lineup for the week. Let's get into that and a whole lot more. We're finishing up a Lake Hartwell event that was very tight, close down to the wire. 4 or 5 guys, any of them getting one bass could have won that event. It was almost one sight fishing. It was kind of a combo of herring spawn and sight fishing and a few things going on, which is what we kind of predicted based on our analysis from Omnia Fishing Pro diagnostics from our last video. You can go back and check it out if you want. Before we get into the picks for Lake Fork, let's talk about the winners from Hartwell and give them their flowers. So in the Beat HellaBass group, in a tiebreaker, Ed Bago E. LaFontaine takes the win, tied with me and several other members, but he had a more accurate tiebreaker weight, 1,389 points. We all had all 5 anglers in the top 5. It was a pretty impressive event. Feel like hell is back. Got my swagger. We went from being in the light green into the dark green in one tournament in the top few thousand. So big jump here, a good tournament, and we're going to try to continue that at Lake Fork. So E. Fontaine, watch for an email from me and Bassmaster. I'll get you hooked up with your Omnia Pro prize pack for Drain the Lake. It was B. Crane sticker with almost 2,500 points. Surely he had Paul Marks picked as the winner and got the bonus points there. So congratulations, both the winners. Watch for your note from me to get your Omnia Pro. If you guys haven't won Omnia Pro, you're interested, you want to learn more, it is a great deal. And you can use code HBPRO to save 15% on an annual subscription that gets you 10% back on all your purchases. Flash sales, super great deals. You'll save more than the annual membership. Free shipping, no minimum order, which is probably my favorite thing, that I can literally order 1 spool of line, 1 chatterbait, 1 pack of Senkos, and I get free shipping. Plus, all the layers on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer for weather, navionics, things like that that are great for scouting and breaking down new water, which is an awesome deal. And we're going to show you that as we break down Lake Fork here in a few minutes. And if you are not interested in Omnia Pro, but you still want to check out Omnia and support them for supporting the fancy fishing videos, there is a code down in the description that will save you 15% on orders on tackle, fishing gear, and a lot of other things at Omnia Fishing. And you can experience their great selection, super fast shipping, and great customer experience for yourself. Not to mention they have a 20% off swim jigs and spinnerbait sale going on right now. So let's go take a look at Lake Fork. You can see the temperature map already. It is a lot of orange, a lot of yellow, which means most of the lake is in the upper 60s to low 70s, which means we're into the spawn. We're maybe looking at the end of the spawn, and a lot of things are going to be happening here at Lake Fork. Viewing the fishing reports. So there's not currently any fishing reports from this month, but we can look at last early May's. You can see that crappies are stacking up. We can look back at Patrick Walters' report from a late April. You know, looking at the shad spawn, running topwaters, things like that. That is definitely going to be a player. Be a lot of things going on. We're going to have shad spawns in the morning. We're going to have bass on the tail end of their spawn still on beds. We're going to have a few pre-spawn fish hanging out. We're going to have a post-spawn fish, you know, fry guarding as well as moving out. So we're going to have to start to have fish getting back offshore. So we'll have them coming, going on the beds, a shad spawn going on. I think it'll be kind of wide open, kind of like we saw in Hartwell, but just with a whole lot bigger bass. So I think we have some tournaments about the same time of year in 2019, 2020. Brandon Cobb won this event with like 114, 15 pounds, 12 pounds, something like that, where he did a combo of shad spawns with topwaters, jerk baits, and then he sight fished a couple big ones to get the victory. So I think we could see a lot of the same here this week at Lake Fork. Omnia's featuring 3 reports here: chatterbaits, soft plastics, you know. So, I mean, we'll see fish caught on frogs, chatterbaits, moving baits, topwaters, jerk baits. You know, with that gizzard shad spawn, we're probably going to see some glide bait action. So don't be surprised if we see that on camera. Should be a really fun event to watch this week. I say a little closer look, the water temp reinforces what we're saying. Lake Fork's just a couple inches below full pool, so it should be good. I don't think there's any major weather happening this weekend. You know, anglers can also look at some of the vegetation and bottom hardness maps for some of their scouting. Water clarity, it is, you know, a lot of only 1 foot visibility, so the water does have some good color to it for this event. That being said, let's get into the picks. Let's start with fancy fishing. Then we'll do the Bassmaster pickup, finish with Drain the Lake, and talk tiebreakers and get you on your way so you can just get down, watch Bassmaster live, and watch your team perform. All right, starting in Bucket E. Looking at the own percentage, Chris Zaldain's dominating things, and I did want to pick him. I initially picked him, but that high percentage, I don't know, just kind of scares me. I feel like Chris is going to be a little bit boomer or bust. If he gets on the big bait bite, it could be really strong. We'll see. A lot of anglers in Bucket E need to have good tournaments to get out of Bucket E, start making their way up to the Classic. Andrew Loberg is a guy that I thought would be doing better by now. We've seen Pat Flopper have success in Texas. Chad Pipkins, overall, if you're looking for a sneaky pick here, has had some really good events on Fork this time of year. I almost picked him. Steve Kennedy is always an exciting pick. Matt Robertson definitely will throw the big baits. Kind of looking at rank here. When we get down to Bucket East, having the best year, Hackney, Summerall, some of these anglers are having a little bit better seasons, and they're on the verge of getting to Bucket D. And, Caleb Summerall is really good buddies with Lee Livesay, I'm pretty sure, and he's had some good events this time of year. I feel like he's going to be a safe pick. He's going to sight fish some. He's going to catch his limits. He's going to probably fish shallow, and I think he'll do okay. I like Caleb Summerall in this event over Zaldain, but, some decent options, but none of them are having a great year. Moving on to Bucket D, Milliken dominating the percentage. He, was in the top 10 last year in a pre-spawn event. Stetson Blaylock's been good here. Swindle's had some top 10s. Brandon Cobb won when we had this tournament the same week, so that is an interesting pick, but he's not having the greatest season. Matty Wong, we've seen him throw the glide baits and swim baits. I like that pick. Ray Hanselman, one of these days is going to catch him on Lake Fork in Texas. Matt Airy, pretty good this time of year. That kind of late post-spawn, end-of-spawn, sight fishing type deal. Greg DePalma's been good here. But I'm going to go Dakota Ebear. He's got one Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour event here where he finished second, which was more of a pre-spawn deal. But I just feel like he's due. He can't miss another top 50 cut. We're in Texas, so I'm going with a different Texan. I'm not going Milliken. I'm going Dakota Ebear. Bucket C, Fothergill leading the charge. Keith Combs, usually really good in Texas. If you think they're going to be more post-spawn and there's going to be fish getting offshore, then I think Keith Combs could be a really good pick. You got some rookies from last year, like JT Tompkins, Robert Gee in here. Wesley Gore all had pretty good event. A lot of those guys had good events on Fork in that pre-spawn event. Some different anglers with a lot of experience. But I don't know. I'm going Beast in here. He's on a roll. This isn't that much different than Ray Roberts, where he did really well. There's a reason I picked him in Florida, and I stuck with him all these tournaments, and he hasn't done that well. So now he's on a roll, and it's time to let Easton cook. Hamner, pretty interesting option here. Polnick has had some runner-ups, some top 10s. Hamner probably finds some fish on a jerkbait. Jordan Lee has good events here, both on Bassmaster and MLF. The sight fishing, Johnston's, Welcher, some of those guys could be good here. But I'm going to sneak a little bit further down the list, go a little sneaky here. I'm going to go Drew Benton. If there's enough fish on beds, Drew Benton should be a safe pick and make a decent tournament. He's got a lot of top 10s and 20s at Fork in the spring. And he's probably going to be a little mad that Drew Cook caught him better than him at Hartwell. And I think he'll come back with a little vengeance. And Drew Benton, and Drew Benton showed on Murray when he won a couple years ago that he's good around the shad and herring spawn. So those two combo things, that's how he won Murray. He could be a really strong pick here at Lake Fork. Finally, Bucket A, Lee Livesay. This is what we talked about in the opening video. Will he reign supreme? He's won, I think, 2 events here, had several other, top finishes. He's had 1 or 2 not so great tournaments. One where he missed the cut, one where he only finished 40th. But normally he's very strong here, knows this lake very well. But I think most importantly, Livesay's fishing well this year. He's on a momentum train. He's catching them in most places. He's in Bucket A, which makes him a dangerous pick. McKinney won here last year in a pre-spawn. Walters, typically very strong here at Fork. Shakurit seems to pretty much just wake up and catch 18 pounds everywhere he goes. He's going to have probably 20 or 25 here at Fork, but I wouldn't sleep on Shakurit. He seems like he's a guy that you can not really any risk of boom or bust. He's going to be your solid to, top 10 kind of guy. Fujita could be good here. Cox, if they're sight fishing. Johnston, you know, Drew Cook sight fishing. There's a lot of good anglers in this bucket to consider here. But I'm gonna, you know, I took a little risk and a couple other picks, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take Lee Livesay, the fork goat. You know, he burned me last time, but we're gonna go with it this time. I think he'll be strong this week. But there are definitely some other picks. You know, I think Shakur might be the safest pick in that bucket. Let's get over to Pick'em. I haven't even looked at Pick'em yet. This is gonna be my fresh look going through this, making gut picks here. Jay Shakur versus Will Davis. You know, the top 2 in AOI. I don't know, Jay Shakur, he just catches them. Trey McKinney versus Lee Livesay. Well, I picked him in bucket A over Trey, so I got to go with him in the Pick'em. I think Hebert is a safer pick than for the Texas Pick'em for match 3, but Combs does have that history, and you know, if they get out there and he can catch him on a plug or something like that, he could blow the top off this thing. Robertson versus Milliken. Again, Robertson, good angler. I just don't know if he's mentally in the right spot. He could pop a big tournament any one of these days, but I think Ben Milliken is the safer bet here. Fothergill versus Palmer. Again, I think nobody has more momentum than Fothergill. I-30 Showdown, Cifuentes versus Blaylock. I think Blaylock's the safer pick here. And Texas versus Oklahoma. This is a tough one. Zaldane versus Christie. Neither one of them having fantastic years. Oof. Begrudgingly, I'm going Zaldane. Let's get into Drain the Lake. Kind of plan my roster out at the beginning of the year. It's been serving me well. I'm doing pretty well. 97%, top 1,000, top 800. Let's pick a team here. I'm going to go Brandon Cobb. He's had some good events here. We're gonna put Combs in. I'm going to also double down on Hebert. Another Texas guy. We're going to go with Hanselman. Going to use Fujita here because we don't really have a lot of smallmouth venues where we're really full. We're going to use Walters. We're doubling down on Lee Livesay. And I talked about Chad Pipkins. We're going to use him here in Drain the Lake. So our 8 anglers: Brandon Cobb, Keith Combs, Dakota Hebert, Ray Hanselman, Kuyoyo Fujita, Patrick Walters, Lee Livesay, Chad Pipkins. Tiebreaker weight, 112 pounds. I think it's just going to be a little less than Cobb's winning weight. I think it will be over 100 pounds. I don't think we're going to see 10 century belts, but somebody will get it done. If you want to join the Beat Valhalla Grass group, this is probably one of the last events before I shut it down for the year for the people that are in it. So if you need to get in, there'll be some info in the description, or watch this video on the screen right here next.